1, 2, testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the regulatory section of the hybrid meeting of the Planning and Regulatory Services Committee. Can I ask everyone to please mute their mics at all times unless invited to speak? For those of you who are physically in the chamber, can I remind you when speaking, you need to wait until you see yourself on the screen so the live feed can pick up your comments. If you speak before the image is projected, those listening on the live feed or via Zoom won't be able to hear what you say. This is obviously important in the case of a vote being taken. Audio recording is being used to assist in preparing the formal minutes. Therefore, anyone participating in the meeting consents to it being recorded and being live streamed on YouTube. Have we any apologies? I'm aware of two, Councillor Duffy and Councillor McAlinden. Any others? I'm not aware of any others, but if they come to light, let me know. Declarations of interest as well, I'll take them in the normal fashion as we proceed. So item 3 then, 3.1 is an item for decision. And it's a consultation on the draft ammonia strategy, and Sinead's going to present this one. Thanks, Sinead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs, DERA, has launched a consultation on the draft ammonia strategy, the first of its kind in Northern Ireland. The draft strategy recognises that agriculture makes a significant contribution to the Northern Ireland economy. However, those farming practices contribute to ammonia emissions, which in turn have adverse effects on nature and public health. Therefore, the views of the Council on the measures proposed in the strategy is critical in finding the right pathway to improvement. This ammonia strategy aims to address emissions and their impact on the environment in Northern Ireland. It will support the restoration of biodiversity, ecosystems and the services they provide while facilitating sustainable development of a prosperous agri-food industry. This consultation seeks to encourage solutions to the ammonia challenge we now face. It proposes targets for 2030 and outlines a strategic direction for action over the next 5 years to set Northern Ireland on a pathway to achieving those targets. A copy of the draft responses to the strategy for members' agreement are attached at Appendix 2, and it's recommended that members approve the draft response to DERA as outlined in Appendix 2 regarding the consultation on this draft ammonia strategy. Thank you, members.
Okay, thank you, Sinead. Any questions, members, or in the absence of questions, a proposer, because it is an item for decision. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Thanks, Sinead, for your report. Sinead, I suppose this is a well-known thing that's been coming down the line, has needed for a long time, and obviously there's a number of applications in some councils actually sitting waiting on this to happen. I'm not sure many in our own council. I don't think there's so many in ours, but you maybe be able to clarify that. But I know in other councils, be it for Melanoma and Mid-Ulster, there's a serious number. I suppose it's something that we as a committee are going to have to deal with going forward. I suppose my question was, I remember at one stage that the NIEA and the EIS, they had the difference of opinion. Have they now come to an agreement? Because I see figures in the document, and I would be sort of, I would be sort of, I suppose, we're wary, sort of us agreeing the figures that I don't know what it means, if you know what I mean. And I suppose that's my only sort of concern, because obviously, as I say, I'm glad to see that science and innovation is being brought to the fore in this, because it does need dealt with, and obviously also, as I mentioned, there of assistance to farmers, who are going to be the ones hit on the back of this, and like when you bring a strategy out at regional government called Growing for Growth, it creates intensive farming. So this is obviously the end product of that. So as I say, look, I'm happy to propose the letter in front of us, but a couple of wee queries there for Sinead, whether how many applications are in our system waiting to be seen, and are we committing to figures within this, or is this just I don't want to box ourselves in, Chairman, if you know what I mean, at this stage, because I think when this has to be applied to by the 3rd of March and it's coming to us on the 1st, and we only had a few days to consider it. And I'm no expert in it, as I say, and it is a science. And I just want to make sure that we're not. I don't think we are, having read it, the reply to the consultation. But I just wanted to bring that up, Chairman, just to sort of say, yes, it has to be done. It's a good thing for the environment going forward. But again, I suppose if we had another month to have a look at it and consider it in a bit more detail and helpful. But happy to propose, Chair.
Thank you. Just wondering, in that regard, is there extended window of time that we could make a use of a few more weeks just to clarify those points? Maybe bring it back next month on that basis to give, not to put you under too much pressure, but it would give a couple of weeks there to address, the reasonable concerns that Councillor Nicholson has.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And through the Chair, this response is not agreeing any figures at the present time. And yes, you're right. There are an inconsistency between shared environmental services. They're at 0.01% and NIA at 0.1%. So there's a big difference there in regards to levels. But this document and agreeing to this consultation response does not make the council agree to any sort of levels. What we are asking for here is try to get to the stage in 2030 where we can get those levels right down. And as you alluded to, Councillor, there are areas within our borough which are now reaching critical level, which simply means we can't take any more future agricultural activity intensive without having a detrimental impact. And there is a number of those, I think it's in single finger, that's held up and actually with the Minister the last time they were with the Minister for Agriculture to make a decision on those. But this document will not make us to adhere to any sort of figures. That'll have to go through another rigorous consultation. And this exercise, I suppose, will contribute to that, to find a way where all stakeholders, including ourselves, will maybe try to tie up and try to get to a level where we're now happen to, I suppose, to restore these areas and getting back down to be on it. So by us agreeing, Chair, this response does not tie us into any sort of figures that will probably come after.
Okay, thanks, Sinead. I don't see any other lights on, so on that basis, I'm happy to second that, Sinead, on the basis of what you've said. We'll move on then to item 3.2, and Damien, I think, is online, and he's going to bring the latest update on caseloads.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members. Members, this is just an update around information relating to live caseloads. And you'll see from the report before you that the number of decisions that have been issued by the planning department since the new IT system went live back on the 5th of December stands at around 92, with 274 applications having been received over the same period of time. So the current live caseload stands at 1,052, which obviously has gone up, members. But look, you will recall that during the pandemic, members, our live caseload increased significantly. And that was due mainly to the challenges around procuring IT equipment to facilitate remote working and the closure of the planning offices for a significant period of time. In May last year, our caseload had reached 1,095, which was a legacy of the pandemic. However, by November, it had been reduced to 870, and at the same time, our performance against statutory targets has significantly improved. And we have re-established ourselves as one of the best performing planning authorities in Northern Ireland. Unfortunately, the ongoing technical issues associated with the IT system have impacted our ability to issue planning decisions, and as a result, our live planning caseload has once again increased. Members can be assured that officers are engaging closely with the supplier of the IT system and other key stakeholders, including DFI, to ensure that the ongoing issues are addressed as soon as possible. And to that end, I can report that technical solutions are being applied on a regular basis, and members will, of course, be kept updated on progress on the matter. Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to take any queries or questions.
Thanks, Damon. I suppose just when you are on, I brought a few of those types of cases in terms of the difficulties with the new system, and in particular one application which just seemed to completely be lost in the system, despite there being a screen grabs of its existence. The references on that, it couldn't be found, which we felt was quite strange. But I know it's been resubmitted. But we're seeing a lot of that, or those issues now being ironed out, where people who have struggled are now seeing a wee bit of light at the end of the tunnel in those particular circumstances.
Yes, sure. I mean, all of the issues that are being reported to us, not only by staff but also by agents and the public, we are logging those and then referring them on to the suppliers that they can be reported by them and then addressed. So the technical solutions that I mentioned earlier that they're applying, and they're roughly applying these on a fortnightly basis. We're waiting for reports back from them just to let us know which issues have been addressed and whether they've been successfully addressed through these technical solutions that they are applying. So they will continue. I was on a meeting yesterday of the governance board that oversees the new system and the implementation of it. And there were quite a few issues raised around the ongoing technical issues. And that is assurance that we've been given, is that these technical solutions will continue to be applied. But, the message being given to them was the urgency involved, but also that the client side, that is all councils and BFI, will be updated on just how successful these solutions are, which matters are being remedied and which remain outstanding. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Damien. And Damien, I've tried to defend you as much as I can. Chair, I know that in certain committees, but I have to agree with the Chair. I think it's going on too long. It has an impact. You can see the numbers that we're now creeping back up again. I just hope that we do and get a handle on this. I think the IT people that's doing this have got questions to answer. It's not like they didn't know what they were doing from the start. I do think this came too soon after COVID. We hadn't recovered our numbers, and I think our numbers should have been allowed to get down a little bit lower, and maybe the impact wouldn't have been felt as much. But look, we are, and I'm encouraged to hear, Damien, you obviously outlined that you are dealing with this as best you can, but I do think we do need to get on top of this, because as I have been defending you this last while, I am now getting more and more complaints about it, and I'm having trouble with personal experience on it as well. So look, I'm very philosophical in that when you change something, there's always going to be gremlins and stuff. But if we don't get on top of this, as you can see from those numbers, we are going to creep up to COVID levels again, which we don't want to be. And I think you have to come down hard on these IT guys and tell them to get their act together, because I'm sure they've been well paid for doing this. And it's not just our council; it's across 10 councils. And the worst thing for us as the 10 councils, I'm not hearing the same complaints from Mid-Ulster. And they're going, oh, look, we went on our own. And there is that sort of, we told you so type thing. So we need to get our act together as soon as we can. But look, Damien, I'm encouraged what you said this evening, or this afternoon. But hopefully we'll start to see the numbers drop again. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Damien, you want to speak there?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And look, thanks, Councillor Nicholson, for your comments. Look, I want to be absolutely clear about this and emphasise that all councils yesterday at the meeting I attended did outline pretty much what you were saying there, Councillor Nicholson, the importance of getting to grips with this, because through the SRO for the project, we highlighted our concerns and conveyed them to the supplier who was on the call that was at the meeting, that the impact this is having on business in terms of live caseloads, the ability to issue decisions, the risk of litigation, the impact on investment, all of that was very strongly highlighted by all councils who were in attendance at the meeting. And I certainly made it clear on behalf of ABC. And we did ask them to ensure that from here on, there's a very, very comprehensive action plan which identifies all the priority issues and that we are kept updated as to progress as to whether those issues are being resolved. So it is a matter very much of of keeping top of the supplier in relation to this. And look, members, if you are content, I would propose even that a letter is sent on behalf of the council just to highlight the concerns that we have and the need for urgency around resolving the ongoing issues.
Okay, yeah, I'd be happy to propose that. I'm sure Councillor Nick will be happy to second it, so we'll get that done. Thanks, Damien. Okay, members, could I have a proposer and a seconder to go into confidential? Proposed by Councillor Nichols, second by Councillor or Alderman Anderson. So I will read the following statement. Members and online viewers, in accordance with Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into a confidential session of the Council. This means we'll be turning off the public feed of the meeting. This will be returned when the meeting is restarted. Can I ask the ICT officers to please turn off the live feed and confirm with me when the confidential section of the meeting can proceed? Thank you. Thank you. Correspondence, I'm not aware of any. I'm not aware of any other relevant business. So we've pushed on rightly through that, members. So you have a half hour sort of before we start our plan part of the meeting. So we'll see you back here at 4. Thank you. Stop the live meeting. Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the planning section of the hybrid meeting of the Planning and Regulatory Services Committee. Can I ask everyone to please mute their mics at all times unless invited to speak? For those who are physically in the chamber, can I remind you that when speaking into your mic, you need to wait until you see yourself on the screen so the live feed can pick up your comments. If you speak before your image is projected, those listening on the live feed or via Zoom won't be able to hear anything you say. This is obviously important in the case of a vote being required. Audio recording is being used to assist in preparing the formal minutes. Therefore, anyone participating in the meeting consents to being recorded and being live streamed on YouTube. Also, during the course of this meeting, questions may be asked by councillors who are members of the committee, applicants for planning permission, objectors, or those speaking on their behalf. In doing so, councillors endeavour to ascertain the information which they feel is necessary to enable them to determine the application. However, members of the public should note that councillors won't reach a conclusion as to whether an application should be approved, refused, or deferred until the debate on the application has concluded. So move to 5.1, which is a rescission of a resolution made by the committee on the 1st of February. And Damien is going to take this one. Thanks, Damien.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Members, you'll recall that on the 1st of February this year, the committee resolved to grant planning permission for a new food processing facility at Mandeville Business Park, Craigavon. And the decision was made subject to the imposition of a series of planning conditions and the completion of a Section 76 legal agreement. The purpose of the legal agreement was to secure the construction of a section of footpath on an area of land outside of the application site, which would connect the site to Knockmeaner roundabout. Further to the committee reaching its decision, on the 1st of February, the footpath has been constructed, which means that the legal agreement is no longer required. And due to this material change in circumstances, officers are of the view that the decision made by the committee in February is now required to be rescinded and the application referred back to members for reconsideration. And on that basis, members are being asked to agree the recommendation before them. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, members, so we need basically a proposer and seconder that we do that and move then to our application number 1 on the list. Do we have a proposer? Alderman Anderson, a seconder. Alderman Twyble, thank you. Okay, don't see any other lights on, so we'll move then to application LA 08 2022 treble 01, and Sinead is going to bring this one.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that previous decision has now been rescinded. I now have to present this application in full again for you all to reconsider. The application seeks full plan permission for a proposed food processing facility with oat mill, associated processing, packaging and distribution facilities. And the reason it's been presented to planning committee is because it's a major application. Officers have taken that the members have read the report in full, including the addendum, and as such, this is synopsis only. As set out in the report, the proposal is accompanied by an environmental statement, which was submitted on the foot of a pre-application screen determination by officers. The application site is located within the development limit of Craigavon urban area on land zoned as existing industrial land. The zoned land has 6 key site requirements, and as set out in the report, the proposal complies to those where relevant. The design, siting, layered materials and landscape treatment of the proposed development has been fully considered. The proposal is for a purpose-built facility. As such, there is an operational requirement for the mill section of the building to be 42 metres in height. However, while there is relatively limited scope to be creative with the functional design of that part of the building, substantial options and design solutions were advanced to ensure the design would not result in any damage to visual amenity. This included careful consideration of the position of the building on the site, types of material and colour and landscape integration. The layered approach to the overall finishes of this section of the building will add interest, but importantly will reduce the apparent bulk of the building with a softer appearance as the height increases. Overall, whilst the proposed building will be visible from a number of viewpoints, officers are of the opinion it will not have an unacceptable impact on local character or amenity. As a result of the impact on amenity, officers in consultation with the Environmental Health Department are satisfied that, given the layout, construction type and separation distance involved in the construction and operation phase of this development, combined with the planning conditions imposed, it is not expected to give rise to any unacceptable adverse impact on amenity. As regards to archaeological works and the built and natural environment, number 26 Clanrola Road is the nearest listed building to this site. The design of the building has been consciously modern so as not to distract from the surrounding historic structure. Furthermore, the type and location of landscape was carefully considered to ensure the proposal would not cramp the relationship with the listed building. An open field shaded in grass will ensure the listed building would not be visually enclosed. As such, while the proposal will visually compete with the setting of this listed building in the short term, Historic Environment Division have advised they have no significant objection to the proposal and welcomed the mitigation measures including the orientation of the oat mill, where the position is to ensure limited key vistas from the listed building to the north and west are retained. As regards to access, traffic and parking, junction modelling has been prepared for the site access roundabout, which confirms the public road network will continue to function with a high level of service once the mill traffic is included. Parking is adequate to meet the needs of the development and includes electric car charging points, cycle parking and storage provision has also been included. There is already a footpath along the service road to the public road on Knockmena Road, and the construction of a section of the footpath linked to the remaining footpaths has now been completed. Officers in consultation with DFI roads are content the access and parking arrangements are acceptable. As regards to all other material considerations and cited in the report, these have been fully appraised by the relevant authorities who have offered no objections. Overall, the total economic benefit of this, the Northern Ireland economy, is approximately 165 million, which has been given weight but not determined weight. Finally, there have been no third-party objections to this proposal. Having regard to the above, and after undertaking a policy assessment, officers are of the opinion that the proposed development complies with the area plan, the SPPS, and all other relevant planning policies. On this basis, subject to the conditions attached, it is recommended the planning permission be granted. Just take again through the PowerPoint presentation to refresh your memory. So the location of the site within the general areas within the central Craigavon urban area. And that's a site that's outlined in red. So if approved, this would be the first section of that zoning to come forward in the development plan. And that's the site location plan that's outlined in red. So that shows that in the map, Craigavon area, so that pink area is the zone for industrial land. And as I said, it hasn't been no construction work has taken place in that as yet. So that's a post-site layout plan. So to the north of the site, there is an internal access road which has been constructed by InvestNI under that 1998 planning permission. Next slide, please. And that's a sole landscape plan as the listed building is to the northeast. Next slide, please. So that just shows where the planting landscape works are in relation to number 6 Clanrola Road, which obviously is the nearest listed residential property to this site. So that shows the proposed ground floor plan and the different elements coloured. And that's the office as an integral part of the overall development. Shows the site sections east and northwest. So you can see there's a layered approach to the mill. So that helps to soften the impact as it gets to the full height of 42 metres. And then that's just the west and south elevations. That's just a 3D computer generated massing view just to give you an indication of it in 3D. And then there's cross sections of the site. As you can see, the main element is the oat mill. And that's just another further from the other direction. And then cross section through the site from the Knockmena Road. So that's the PSD drawn as approved under the 1998, which is the internal road. And part of that's been constructed, and now the footpath to the northeast has been fully completed to join into the surrounding footpaths. And that just shows it up closer from the roundabout there. So those have been passed in recent weeks. We'll see that that's now being constructed. So this is a 3D computer generated with the proposal in the background. So at the top you'll see as the present day, and then underneath that you will see it with the building implanted in it. And there's another one for Clanrula Road, so that's just down past the listed building. And that's from the Knockmeena Road, that's off the roundabout on approach to the site. You can see in the distance there that the layered approach will help integrate the tower to the north. And that's just over from the Mandeville Road, as if you're heading towards Craigavon Area Hospital. So there is an area up there, but you can also see the site, so you can see it there in the bottom slide. And that's just at the roundabout on approach, just coming off from the Tesco roundabout. You can see it there in the foreground. And that's just the listed building, number 26 Clanrula Road, and the orientation of it towards the site. So the site will be to the west. That's just a photograph of the entrance to the site. As I said, the internal road has been constructed by InvestNI. And that's just looking out, so there's already internal footpaths along that particular route. And that's just the site you can see in the foreground there with the internal road already in place. And that's it looking towards Mandeville Road. As you can see, it's different in levels. And then further, you can just see the tops of the houses there down there at Mandeville Road. And that's just looking towards the roundabout, so the footpath link and access is ready in place. Thank you, members.
Okay, thanks, Sinead. So members, we've heard this one before, and it is a change really, just to take notice of the fact that that pathway has been constructed. So on that basis, don't intend to dwell too long on it, members. So if we want to move into any questions and quickly then through to a decision, I'll take any questions or any commentary. Don't sense any or any lights on, so I'm going to waste time. I'm going to go for a proposer and a seconder. We adopt this decision. Councillor Savage and Alderman Twyble. Okay. All in agreement? Any contrary? I don't see any. Okay, thank you, Sinead. So we'll move to Appendix 2, and there is an addendum report circulated for this one also. Sinead's going to present it, and Sinead, when you're ready, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The application is for a residential development comprising a mixture of apartments, semi-attached and attached dwellings with car parking, landscape and retaining walls, new access arrangements and general site works. And the reason it's before the Planning and Regulatory Service Committee is because it's a major application. Officers have taken that members have read the report in full, including the addendum, and as such, this is a synopsis only. The application site located within the town centre boundary of Banbridge, with the majority of the site zoned as a development opportunity site, with the section also within an area of townscape character. The zoning has 3 key site requirements, and housing is considered an acceptable town centre use. As such, officers are of the opinion the proposal is in principle is considered acceptable. In considering design, layout and amenity, and as set out in detail within the report, and recognising that Poly promotes an increase in the density of housing in officers are of the opinion the proposal will create a quality and sustainable residential development, and there will be no unacceptable adverse effect on existing or proposed properties in terms of overlooking, loss of light, overshadowing, noise or other disturbance. As regards to traffic, access and parking, vehicular access to the site will be gained via 2 proposed access points onto Meeting House Road, with 2 accessible dwellings having access onto Commercial Road. 53 parking spaces are proposed within the curtilage of the site, and 28 lay-by spaces, overall presenting a shortfall of 27 spaces when considered against creating places. Planning guidance sets out criteria whereby a reduced level of parking standard may be acceptable. For example, sites within 10 metres walking distance or within 800 metres of a town centre. This site is actually within the town centre. Weighing up all material considerations, officers are content that proposed parking location is acceptable based on the unique circumstances and highly accessible location of this within the town centre. In respect of features of archaeological and built heritage, the northern portion of the site is located within an area of townscape character. A building within the area of townscape character is to be demolished. Authors are of the opinion that this building makes no material contribution to the distinctive character of the area and is acceptable to be demolished. The impact of the proposal on the setting of listed buildings has been carefully considered in consultation with the Historic Environment Division, who offer no objections subject to conditions. All the material considered has also been fully considered, including flooding, drainage, impact on natural heritage, contamination, air quality, noise impact, and water impact, and all the consultees have offered no objections. Finally, there has been one objection to this proposal. These have all been fully considered in the report. The drawings submitted have been annotated, detailed the boundary treatment existing and proposed, and officers are content the proposal will not have a detrimental impact on the occupier. As such, after undertaking a policy assessment, officers are of the opinion that the proposal complies with the area plan, the SPPS, and all relevant planning policies, and therefore should be approved. Let's take you to the PowerPoint presentation. So there's the location of the site. It's the centre of Banbridge, so it's the centre of the town centre. And there's an aerial view of the proposed site. The aerial view has the existing industrial buildings on the site. They have now since been demolished. That shows the site location plan, the area of the site outlined in red. So the buildings to the northeast are excluded from this particular site. So that's just a site appraisal, just to give you in context. So that blue area is the area of townscape character. So you can see it wraps around the northern portion of the site. The purple area to the south is the primary retail core, and then the rest is a town centre location. That's proposed site layout. So the layout is designed to ensure an active frontage along the commercial road and the meeting road, and along Craigavon Road as well. So it wraps right around the site to give that townscape character. And that shows proposed elevations of the apartments onto Craigavon Road. And that just shows it in context with the adjoining buildings on down, and the Presbyterian Church there to the east is actually a listed building. So that shows some of the proposed house types. And that just gives an elevation treatment. So the site rises from the commercial road up to the meeting house road, as you can see. And the site has been designed to the open space to be in the middle, but graded gradually to avoid the need for large retaining walls, etc. And that just shows a context of the section in relation to the objection there at number 18 Commercial Road. So that just gives you a close-up to ensure that those has been fully considered in light of the objection received. So that just gives a photo of the site at the minute. You can see, well, at the minute that steel structure is actually completely been demolished now. So that just shows that the previous industrial building that was on the site is now all been demolished. And on again, that just shows up and down Commercial Road. There's a car park opposite for those that are familiar with the town centre. And that just shows a photo from the Craigavon Road. That's the brown brick building that we are saying makes no contribution to the area of townscape character, and we're content for that to be demolished. That just shows it on up from, just give it in context. So those apartment block will go just there in that gap site and include the office building beside it. That just shows within the site from the meeting house road up. So the site has been cleared just in the other opposite road. And that just shows it on up. So there's no footpath or anything there at the minute, but under this proposal, there will be a new footpath up the side of that road. And that just showed a close-up of that boundary in relation to that property in which the objection was submitted. Part of that boundary, that wall, is to be retained and plastered and painted, and the rest will be a closed border fence. So that boundary actually will not be open to that dwelling. I think that was highlighted in the objection. There was a fear of there actually being no boundary there at all. And that just shows from inside their property looking out. As you can see, part of the wall is still there, but there also will be a closed border fence constructed there as well. And that just gives you the context as well, so that their wall is going to be plastered and painted. And that's just as a Google view. So that was previously previously that dwelling had an industrial building right up to that boundary, which was a shared common boundary. So there's actually a betterment here by having that removed and the dwelling set back. Thank you, members.
Sinead, we have in person today Eamon Lockery of Altus and James McConnell, Harry Wilson Architects, to make a representation, and you're very welcome to the committee. You have 3 minutes in total, so how you split that up is up to yourselves, but the timer, as you can see, is on the... Who wants to go first? I can operate your mic then.
I'm going to speak, and James is here to answer any questions should there be any.
That's okay. That's grand. Well, look, your time will start as soon as you start talking, basically, and then it'll finish whenever the clock runs to 0. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this meeting. I am the agent for the application, and this is Mr. McConnell, the architect. As you have heard from the officer, this is a major application for 59 dwellings in Banbridge Town Centre. If approved, this application will result in the redevelopment of the former Germinal warehouse facility at Commercial Road. We've been working on this application for almost 2 years, devising the scheme layout, consulting with the department, undertaking community consultations, and liaising with the local housing association to ensure that the type and layout of the dwellings match the current requirements and demands for Banbridge. It is intended that the dwellings will provide social housing accommodation. Allowing this application will see the redevelopment of a large brownfield site, providing housing in a highly sustainable location. This is consistent with the local development plan and the identification of the site as a development opportunity site which is suitable for housing. The application is therefore compliant with the plan, and in accordance with the 2011 Act, it directs it should be approved unless material considerations indicate otherwise. The scheme will provide a mix of dwellings, detached, semi-detached, and apartments. The layout has been designed to carefully integrate the scheme with its surroundings and provide a permeable and legible housing development with a large centralised area of public open space and pedestrian links to the rest of the town centre. The scheme has been designed in conjunction with DFI Road Service, and important improvements have been agreed to increase the safety of Meeting House Street, including provision of footpaths and the widening of the junction with Scarva Street. The scheme also pays careful regard to the residential amenity of a single residential neighbour, as well as having taken into consideration the historic buildings in the area. We have addressed all planning issues relating to the site, including dealing with the loss of industrial buildings, addressing contamination, surveying the site for bats, providing bird boxes to support the swift bird population in the area, addressing issues with lighting from the nearby tennis courts and bowling green, air quality and noise, surface water drainage, and ensuring that the scheme can be delivered with connections made to any water wastewater network. Overall, we agree with the planning department that the proposal is a sustainable and suitable reuse of these lands. We would like to thank the Council Planning Department for their continued guidance on the application and the speed at which they have worked to determine the application. We welcome the recommendation and respectfully request the committee approve the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. At this point, members, I'll take any questions for the objector applicant, or there isn't an objector, the applicant, agent, or supporter. If you want, Councillor Savage.
Thank you very much, Chair, and Sinead, thank you for report and thank you for your presentation there, gentlemen. Maybe just for the agent said, Sinead had mentioned there's 2 accessible dwellings that are going to have access onto Meeting House Road. Is that the total sum of the accessible units within the development, or will there be more in the development? Thanks.
Okay.
Councillor, all the dwellings are designed as lifetime homes, designed for social accommodation standards. The 2 detached dwellings that front onto Commercial Road, in the centre of that elevation, are 2 wheelchair locations. And when we were designing the scheme, we purposefully located those 2 dwellings as close to the edge of the site as possible to allow those people, should there be wheelchairs, to be as close to the commercial core of the town as possible. So those are the wheelchair accessible dwellings on Commercial Road.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Flatman. Have you any timescales for the start of this development and completion? And just sort of follow on from Councillor Savage's question. Out of all the developments, in my opinion, maybe 2 out of them all is wheelchair accessible. Is there any plans maybe to expand that? Because I know there's a shortage of housing, obviously, for people with mobility issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So you can see from the photographs that the developer has actually taken down and got the site ready for commencement as quickly as possible, and that's really what they want to do. We have there's some discharge applications that we have to deal with, that we have to come back to planning and go through the committee here to discharge some minor issues on archaeology work has to be looked at. We couldn't do archaeology because there are buildings on the site, so we have to deal with archaeology, and I think there's a landscaping discharge required. So those matters aside, there's connection available for NI water, which is a big problem elsewhere in Northern Ireland, and this site has got agreement for connection. So there's nothing stopping this development happening, and I think it will. We would like to be on site as quickly as we can get the archaeology done, and we've been getting archaeological quotes this past week to get people instructed to do that. So, subject to getting through those discharge conditions, and you have to do things the right way, we'd like to be seen to be on site as soon as possible, and possibly before the summer. The design of the houses and the number of wheelchair units and the various accessibility of the wheelchair the dwellings, we have been working with Armagh Housing Association, and they've guided us as to the actual requirement for the blend or the tenures that we've provided on the site. Now, if time comes and there's a requirement for additional wheelchair accessible units, we can come back in and we will come back in to meet the demand. This is West. Sinead quite rightly didn't promote it as a social housing scheme, because we haven't applied as a social housing scheme. We are very much focused on providing social housing on this site, and if Armagh Housing indicate that that's something that's necessary, then I don't think there'll be any problem coming back and seeking to expand on the number of units for wheelchair users.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lavery.
Thank you, Chair. 2 queries. Suppose the first one would be regarding the total number of car parking spaces within the development. I note that they said there's 53 in Carthage, and then is it 28 lay-by? So is that then 81 spaces in total within the development? Just to clarify that, and would those be numbered so that there's one for each property, and then a couple of overflow ones? Just how will that parking be managed at this location? A bit more detail on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, the 81 spaces are at the moment they're unallocated. And it's purposefully unallocated in that because it's a town centre location. We're relying on in curtilage spaces for the people who have dwellings. There'll be apartment spaces as well provided, and then the out of curtilage spaces, which are lay-by spaces on both Meeting House Street and on Commercial Road, are provided to be flexible. Now, the reality is people on Commercial Road will use those spaces, but if any spaces become available, then town centre users will use it for their shop or whatever. And so it's important to get a sustainable blend of parking on a site of this nature. So it was something that Road Service challenged us on and required us to do a parking survey to make sure that the number of car parking spaces on site were satisfactory and that there were sufficient spaces in the wider area to support the scheme. So we've already satisfied Road Service on the number of parking, but in answer to the question, will they be identified and allocated and maintained? spaces within the site will be maintained within the development. They'll not be allocated to certain users. They'll be open to whoever has on a first come first service basis within the confines of the site itself. Some spaces will be in curtilage inside the dwelling, so those occupiers will have their own space. And then the on-street parking, commercial road parking will be a first come first service basis. But again, residents will more than likely have those whenever they need them at night time, whenever they come home from their work or wherever. So we've worked hard on that point, Councillor. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Nicholson.
Oh, sorry, I said I have 2 questions here.
Oh, sorry. Go on ahead.
Sorry, thank you for that update on that. The second question would be regarding cycling provision. I know as mentioned, this is a town centre location, so a big good use of cyclers to go about their business in terms of commuting, but I don't see any plans for like cycling stands or cycling storage unit in such a town centre location, which would be commonplace in other Belfast type locations. Has there been any provision at all for cycling in this location? Or has it been solely focused on the parking angle? Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Within the apartment block at the ground floor, there's a cycle storage area allocated, and there's cycles. So there's an internal cycle area, a cycle storage area inside the apartment block, and also there's cycle spaces within the apartment car park for people in the apartments should they wish to avail of a cycle, an outside cycle space. And then obviously within the dwellings themselves, people will have space to lock up their bikes as part of within the curtilage of their own home.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for those that are presented so far. When you go last, Chair, most of the questions have been asked, but obviously a very, very detailed report, as Sinead said, and all the consultations back. The one question I had in relation to you were 24 apartments, and obviously it's a private road to the apartments. So I assume you envisage people pulling their bins out, or what is the waste strategy for the site? Because it is a substantial development, obviously, as you say, in a town centre, and obviously there'll be a lot of waste. And as we all know, at the minute we've all got 3 bins, so you can imagine a collection of bins at the edge of the road. Has that been taken into account with a waste strategy? Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, there's the site layout allocates areas for bins to be brought out. So we have those with 3 areas within that private road to be brought out, but they would all be brought out on bin day to the entrance of the scheme, and that's again like it's now everywhere. That was one of the early questions that Sinead put us over to actually make sure that was provided. I think we had that probably landscaped area, and we've actually provided that as a hard standing area as part of the pre-application discussions to ensure that was provided for.
Yeah, Councillor Nicholson. Yeah.
Yeah, look, thank you, Chair, and thanks for your clarification. And I suppose the only other thing is it's a pet peeve of mine. You have no chimneys on the houses, and we talk about townscape character, and I've seen it so often now in new developments, no chimneys, and part of our townscape character is chimneys. So I'd like to see some chimneys. I know I can't ask for them, Chairman, but I just want it recorded that it's a pet peeve of mine. Thank you.
Yeah, I suppose there'd be concerns over Santa at Christmas. You know, what's the mitigation here? You know, questions we need answers to. So, have you a view on chimneys?
Not in the scheme, Councillor, but not in the scheme.
Hopefully keys will be provided there. Thanks. Sinead, you had your light on there.
Yeah, no, I was just touching what Eamon had already said, and as you say, bins and stories like that was an integral part of it. You said, Council, there's nothing as bad as bins sitting out along, especially this is one of the main arterial routes into Banbridge town centre, actually within the town centre. So actually the agents worked hard. I can maybe bring up the layout just to show you. They've actually designated 3 spaces within each residential development, and then that has all been pavers, which makes it very easy for the occupiers to bring it down to where it is. So maybe just bring up one of the layouts, maybe just bring it. There's also within the apartments, there is a 1,100 litre Euro bins provided as well as your normal 240 litre bins. There is a designated bin collection area. This has all been provided within the site. So to be fair to the agent and applicant, they've worked very hard to ensure that this win, if granted, actually would be a quality residential development. You don't want to have those. So we just go to the layout, Patricia. I should have stopped just near the start. Yes, that's the one there. Sorry, back again. Maybe it's not too tight to see, but in the back, I thought that was all previously like a rear garden grassed area, but then they put in the pavers and they put in to note the 3 bin storage areas. They've actually got an area for your rotary clothesline, all that in the back, so it's not visible from the outside. For the apartments, there is a bin collection area at the edge of the curb, so all the bins will be sitting out, and there's other areas for your recycling bins as well as your cycle stands, and also that's been an integrated part of the development. So it should be easy for future occupiers to bring their bins out and bring it back in. And when it's easy for an occupier, they tend to actually go about their business. But if it's difficult for them, they probably won't do it. So that's why the design has been carefully designed in that regard. So just, I suppose, just to reassure members that has all been an integral part of the process.
Sinead, Councillor Nichols.
Yeah, thanks, Sinead, for the clarification. And just something in my head there, Sinead, because I'm involved with some sort of a social housing scheme myself. Is this going to be gated? Because I know that it's something that, secure by design. Like, I don't know what the thought is, because I'm just thinking, are the 2 entrances going to be gated and controlled? And that being it, it creates its own sort of issues as well. Just clarification. I don't see it at the minute, but is there a potential it could be down the line?
Yes, I suppose. As Mr. Loughery said, there's a number of conditions to be discharged. One is the hard landscaping and soft landscaping, including the management of it, because previously that road was to be adopted, then they're back to private status just to make it that sort of bit more to amenity value for that, so they have control over it. So if the future developer of this site is a housing association, they would take it all onto the management company. And as you rightly alluded to, they'll probably try to gate that there, have some sort of barrier where only the residents have access to. All the rear gardens, etc., have their own way gates, etc., as you can see to the back. It's just, I suppose, the main routes in, but that'll be for a discharge of condition and consideration then.
Okay, members, thank you. We'll move on to debate and decision phase. I'll take any views at this point. Thanks, Councillor Savage.
Thank you very much, Chair, and had a good discussion there and with very good answers from the applicants and a very comprehensive report from Sinead. And as it points out in the report, Banbridge is an area of very high demand for social housing. I think the latest commissioning prospectus has it down for 170 houses between 22 and 27. Under 467 people on the waiting list in Banbridge, and over 300 of them are in housing stress. So, this has to be welcomed in relieving the housing issue in Banbridge. And, it is within our borough, it is the area of the second highest for housing demand. So I think this is a very good news story for the borough and Banbridge in particular. Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I'll probably just concur with Councillor Savage's comments. I think we were second in the league behind Lurgan and for demand for social housing. And I think probably with it being such a close location to the town centre, I would hope now it would increase footfall for the traders within the town. It's basically a step over the road and you're into the middle of the heart of Banbridge town centre. So I think it is to be welcomed. I think not only for people with looking housing at the moment, but hopefully the traders of Banbridge or the town centre, which it'll increase their footfall. Thank you.
You. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. And like the previous speakers, as has been said, it's a well worked out scheme. And obviously Sinead is as normally an impeccable report and very hard to pick holes in. And again, as has been said, like social housing is in need everywhere, and what it does, it sort of it fits in with the thought for our town centres to get more residential close to our town centres, which will help our evening economy and other parts of businesses. So I do think it compliments to the agent and the team. A very, very nice scheme, well worked out, despite the chimneys. But we'll leave that one. But no, as I say, it's really well worked out. And if, as I say, a few more like this would be great, because I've driven up that road many a times, and I've looked at that sort of wall of kind of corrugated tin and concrete, and this will be a much more pleasant aesthetic on the streetscape. So definitely very, very good scheme. Thank you.
Okay, members, have we any decisions? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I am happy to propose we accept the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholson.
Yes, Chair, happy to second. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming along. Gentlemen, we'll move on then to item number 3. And again, there's an addendum report circulated. And this one's taken by Kyle Elder. So Kyle, when you're ready.
This plan application seeks full plan permission for the erection of an extension to a previously approved mezzanine within a retail warehouse unit at Bridgewater Park, Banbridge. The mezzanine floor space would increase from 160 square metres as previously approved to 810 square metres, an increase of 650 square metres. The application is before you this evening as it is a major planning application. Officers have taken it, members have read the report in full and the addendum, and as such this is a synopsis only. The application site is located within the settlement development limits of Banbridge and outside of the town centre as defined by the Banbridge Newry Mourne Area Plan 2015. The site is located within 24.51 hectares of land at Chasm Road, which is zoned for mixed use, zone in BE 35. The proposal is to extend the already approved mezzanine floor within Unit 4. Unit 4 is to provide for bulky goods retail warehousing. It's proposed that Easy Living furniture retailer will occupy this unit. The development is considered to be compliant with the key site requirements of zone in BE 35, and as such, officers raised no concerns in the context of the area plan. The strategic plan policy statement seeks to secure a town centre's first approach for the location of future retailing and other main town centre uses. Paragraph 6.280 of the SPPS states that sequential tests should be applied to plan applications for main town centre uses that are not in an existing centre and are not in accordance with an up-to-date local development plan. The site is not within an existing centre, however, it is in accordance with an up-to-date local development plan. As such, sequential assessment is not required. Members will, however, note that sequential assessment has been provided and officers consider the site is sequentially preferable and that there are no alternative sites in sequentially preferable locations in the proposal's catchment, which would require the proposal to be refused. On the basis of the above, the application site satisfies the sequential test within the SPPS and will continue to fulfil the aim of the SPPS, which is to support and sustain Banbridge Town Centre. All applications for retail developments above a threshold of 1,000 square metres gross external area, which are not proposed in a town centre location, should be required to undertake a full assessment of retail impact, as well as need as set out in paragraph 6.283 of the SPPS. Although the extension proposed in this application would provide an additional 650 square metres, as the gross floor area of the unit would be over 1,800 square metres. A retail impact assessment as well as an assessment of need were submitted by the applicant in support of the application. The proposal is for an extension of a mezzanine floor to accommodate the demand of the retail warehouse market, which in itself sets out a need for it. In addition, the zoning of the site allows retail warehouse development, so the local development plan envisages that the proposed site will absorb future retail need. As set out in the retail impact assessment, there is a need for the retail warehouse unit to widen the retail warehouse market in Banbridge and introduce a new retail warehouse operator into the town. It will increase choice for customers in terms of the range of products available and increase competition with other retailers, which the general public will benefit from. As illustrated in the plan history, the proposed site forms part of lands which has consent for 10 retail warehouses extending to 21,827 square metres gross retail floor space, which shows that there is long acceptance that there is a need to increase the retail warehouse provision in Banbridge. This is principally to discourage shoppers from leaving Banbridge and visiting Sprucefield and Uri to keep the trade in Banbridge. Home Bargains, Unit 4 and M&S extend to approximately 4,842 square metres gross retail floor space. There's a residual of 16,985 square metres of retail warehouse floor space previously approved at this site. The 650 square metres of the proposal equates to less than 4% of the residual floor space previously approved but not yet built out. As set out in the retail section of the report, a single year of bulky comparison growth is adequate to sustain the increased turnover of the proposal. As such, officers are content there's a quantitative and qualitative need for this proposal. Members will note that the retail impact assessment is considered in detail in the report. The retail impact assessment concludes that the principal bulky shopping location in the catchment is Bridgewater Park. The total bulky household and furnishing turnover of principal shops in Bridgewater Park is £26 million in 2022 and estimated to grow to £26.6 million in 2023. Given the proposal will have a total turnover of £1.98 million, an increase in turnover of 0.3 of a million. This means that even if all of its turnover was drawn from the shops in Bridgewater Park, the resulting retail impact will not be harmful, but merely that the shops in Bridgewater Park will achieve a little less growth next year than they might otherwise achieve. The estimates of Banbridge Town Centre are that it has a comparison turnover of £58 million. Given the proposed Unit 4 will have a turnover of less than £2 million, this would not result in demonstrable harmful impact, even if all its impact was drawn from the town centre. In this context, officers are content that the proposal will not create any demonstrable harm. Given that all the comparison turnover will be diverted from out of centre locations such as Sprucefield Centre, the Molly Retail Park in Uri and Bridgewater Park, the proposal cannot have a combined harmful impact on any protected town centre. And on this basis, the overall retail impact of the proposal is below 1%. And therefore will not have a negative retail impact for Banbridge Town Centre or the surrounding centres within the catchment area. A transport assessment form, as well as a parking statement and surveys, have been submitted in support of the application. No new parking spaces are proposed to the 194 parking spaces and 13 accessible spaces previously approved on the site under LA 08-2020/0902F. The parking standards document indicates the need of an additional 33 car parking spaces. Officers have considered the parking statement and surveys and note there is considerable available parking provision within the overall site at present. Officers therefore raise no concerns regarding the parking arrangements proposed or the proposal against the policy provisions of PPS 3. Regarding design, all proposed works would be internal, namely the construction of the mezzanine, and as such, the development will not unduly affect the townscape. Members are advised that no objections have been received regarding this proposal. So overall, officers consider the proposal to comply with the local development plan, the policy requirements of the SPPS and all other relevant planning policies, and on that basis, approval is recommended for the reasons outlined in the report and the addendum, and subject to the conditions suggested in the report and the addendum. We just have a short presentation then. Okay, so in terms of the location of the developments, Bridgewater Park, which is just south of Banbridge. The next slide then shows the site location plan. And then we can see an aerial view of the site. So the next slide just shows a closer up view of the aerial. So the white roof of the unit, and then the parking associated with it to the southwest. The next slide then shows the proposed site layout, which is followed by the floor plan that was previously approved. So you can see Unit 4 there to the left of the screen, and then this smaller mezzanine as proposed, which was to the rear of the store. The proposed floor plans then, the mezzanine is shown just to the right there, so it's highlighted in purple, and there's it takes up the majority of the unit, but you can just see the X there at the entrance, which would be a void. The next slide then shows just a photograph of Unit 4, followed by a photograph of the car park, and then another photograph just of the car park from a different angle. And the last slide then is just a photograph of the wider car park. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kyle. Eamon is also along for this application to make a representation as the agent in support. So again, you have your 3 minutes and start whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. I'm the agent for this application, and on behalf of my clients, Gorda Lowry Developments Limited and the proposed end user of Unit 4, we welcome the recommendation to approve the application. This is a straightforward proposal. It will increase the size of the previously permitted internal mezzanine floor within Unit 4 of Bridgewater Park, Banbridge. Unit 4 has been constructed, and in order to secure the end user, we have been asked to increase the mezzanine floor by 650 square metres. There will be no other changes to the building. We have demonstrated to the satisfaction of the planning department that the proposal is compliant with the local development plan, which zones the site for retail warehousing, and that the proposal will not have any harmful impacts in terms of retail policy, roads, or layout considerations. The proposal will deliver a new household furniture retailer to Banbridge and will provide economic benefits in terms of providing about 20 retail jobs and increasing competition in the retail market. I'd like to thank the department for the expedient assessment of the proposal. I would respectfully request the committee allow the application. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Members, any queries or questions for Eamon or for Kyle? Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, Chairman, look, I think this one's quite straightforward. But Kyle, just go over again the sort of thought process. Obviously, we're increasing the floor area, and we're not increasing the requirement of car parking. And just a wee more detail, in relation to. I've read the report, and I can see obviously. Did you do your own sort of assessment on that? Did you find it was the same? Are you content that what has been sort of presented here as regards car parking is sufficient? Thank you, Chairman.
Yep, sorry. In terms of the parking numbers, we went through the assessment that was provided, and we determined that there was an over provision of parking spaces in the previous application, and indeed considering the other applications on the site and pending applications. But also in terms of trying to justify relaxing the normal standard, one of the reasons was that it's not a standalone unit. It's part of obviously a retail complex. So there will be some shared visits here where people, will be using the other units as well. So that made it more comfortable for us to relax the parking requirement in this instance.
Thank you. Any other questions or queries, members? Okay. Don't see any lights on, so we'll move into the debate and decision phase, members. Okay, thanks, Kyle. Any other questions or queries, members? Okay, don't see any lights on, so we'll move into the debate and decision phase, members. Okay, don't see any lights on, so we'll move into the debate and decision phase, members. Okay, don't see any lights on, so we'll move into the debate and decision phase, members. Okay, don't see any lights on, so we'll move into the debate and decision phase, members. Okay, don't see any lights on, so we'll move into the debate and decision phase, members. Okay, don't see any lights on, so we'll move into the debate and decision phase, members. Okay, don't see any lights on, so we'll move into the debate and decision phase, members. Okay, don't see any lights on, so we'll move into the debate and decision phase, members. Okay, don't see any lights on, so we'll move into the debate and decision phase, members. Okay, don't see any lights on, so we'll move into the debate and decision phase, members. Okay, don't see any lights on, so we'll move into the debate and decision phase, members. Okay, don't see any Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, look, Chairman, as I said, I think this one's quite straightforward. It's already been approved. It's an extension of a first floor mezzanine, as Kyle has eloquently outlined, and the agent, you know, that this is a shared car parking area, and I'm content. I think it's been, again, well sort of interrogated robustly by Kyle, and obviously it's again it's another unit in the Bridgewater complex. So I think it's a pretty much straightforward one, Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Is that a proposal then, Councillor Nicholson? Just in.
Want me to propose it, Chair? I'll propose it, yeah.
Okay, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, happy to second that proposal. It's good to see another more use of the boulevard and the retail park up there, and bringing another retailer in on the jobs along with it is much welcome for the area. So I'm happy to second the proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I don't see any other lights on, so Eamon, thanks for coming. You're free now. We'll move on then to Appendix 4, and Trudy's going to present this one. So when you're ready, Trudy, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This application seeks full planning permission for the erection of a replacement dwelling and is before you this afternoon as the applicant and as an elected member of this council. Outline planning permission was granted for a replacement dwelling on the site in April 22, and the applicant wishes for the full application being considered at this meeting to be considered in substitution of this previous outline permission. The granting of outline permission has established the principle of development under policies CTY1 and CTY3 of PPS 21. Notwithstanding this, members are advised that the dwelling to be replaced still has all four walls and roof intact and exhibits the characteristics of a dwelling. Permission is sought for a split level dwelling, which will appear as 2-storey from the front and single storey to the rear. This design takes account of the sloping nature of the site. It is the applicant's intention to retain the existing dwelling for ancillary uses, and as such, officers have suggested the inclusion of a condition requiring that it cannot be used for human habitation. The dwelling is to be finished in render in grey natural stone and have a slate or non-profile tile roof, and officers are of the opinion that the siding and design of the dwelling are appropriate to the site and the surrounding landform. Members are advised that the consultation responses in relation to the proposal were favourable and that no objections have been received. Officers are content that the proposal meets the policy tests of PPS 21 and the corresponding sections of the SPPS, and therefore recommend that members grant planning permission subject to the conditions set out in the report. And we'll just take you through the slides, please. So this is our location of the site within the general area to the south of Armagh City itself. And this is our site location plan. So the site itself is about 370 metres from the Newton Hamilton Road. Next one. And this is our aerial photograph of the site within the wider area. And this is an aerial photograph of the site with the dwelling to be replaced with the arrow identifying it. This photograph is taken from within the site, and that's our dwelling to be replaced just to the centre there. It's surrounded by a number of outbuildings. The next slide, please. This is taken from further back in the site. All these outbuildings are to be retained as part of the proposal. And this is looking from the front door of the dwelling to be replaced, looking towards the outbuildings. This is taken from the top of the lane, looking directly at the gable of the house to be replaced. And this is taken slightly further down the lane, again looking north across the site. And this is again slightly further down and again looking across the site towards the east with the dwelling to be replaced just there to the right of the picture. This is taken then from the field to the west of the site. Looking back up towards it, you'll see the existing dwelling and the outbuildings, which will provide a backdrop then to the proposed dwelling. And then this is taken from the Newton Hamilton Road. This is the best vantage point that I could find on the day, and it's taken from the Curran Community Hall car park. And our site is just over that little ridge. And the next slide, please. So these are our proposed elevations. As said in the summary, the front is the 2-story and the back is the single-story. Next slide. And that's our floor plans and our sections. And the last one should be our layout. And that's us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And as far as I know, Joseph McGill is here to make a representation. Is that right? No, no. Okay, no, that's grand. So no one members. So I'll move straight into questions if we have any. Not detecting any questions. Has been a comprehensive report, as we've seen. That's a fairly straightforward replacement too. And the only reason it's here is obviously because it's an elected member. So members, I'm not detecting any queries, so we're content to move to debate decision. Yeah. Okay, I'm happy to propose members that don't detect any queries or disagreements on this one. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, Chairman, as you say, it's pretty straightforward and happy to second your proposal. So.
Okay, that's grand. I don't detect or see any other lights or indications, members, so we'll conclude on that one. We'll move to Appendix 5. And Roisin is going to deliver the presentation on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This application seeks planning permission for the erection of a play area with 14 separate pieces of play equipment enclosed by a 1.2 metre high fence on lands 60 metres northwest of 1 Clendenning Avenue, adjacent to the junction of Clendenning Drive and Clendenning Avenue, Portadown. The application is being presented to committee tonight as the council is the applicant. The application site is comprised of an area of existing open space within the settlement limit of Portadown. Beyond the site to the south, east and west are residential developments. Plans Policy PPS 8 defines children play areas as open space, and therefore the proposal retains the use of the site as open space, and the proposal therefore complies with the SPPS and Policy OS 1 of PPS 8 and is considered acceptable at this location. The proposal located within a predominantly residential area, and the nearest dwelling is opposite the site approximately 50 metres to the south-east and separated by the road network. The existing use of the site is public open space and is freely accessible to the public. Given that this is an existing area of open space accessible for use by the public, the separation distance to residential properties and the intervening road, officers are satisfied the proposal would not have an adverse impact on residential amenity. The proposed use is ancillary to the existing use of the site and for that reason does not require its own parking provision. The site is currently served by on-street parking and the proposed development is accessible by pedestrian access. Officers consider the existing on-street parking to be sufficient to serve the development. No objections to the proposal have been received and all consultees are satisfied and officers are recommending that the application be approved. I'll just take you through the slides. And the red arrow indicates the location of the site within the area just to the south of Portadown. And this is an aerial view of the site, and you can see it's an existing area of open space, grassed at the moment. And this is our site location plan. This might be a bit difficult to see, but you can see the application site there just outlined in red. And this is the site location, layout and details. It just gives you an idea of the proposed layout of the play park. And again, this gives you a bit more detail on the proposed equipment, which does include accessible swing, accessible wheelchair roundabout, and accessible double width slide. And again, a few more details. And just on the bottom left, it'll give you an idea of the proposed boundary fencing, which is chestnut paling. And this is a visual of the proposal, just give you again an idea of how it's going to look on the ground. And this is just a photograph of the site taken from the junction of Clendenning Avenue and Clendenning Drive. And then it's just another photograph of the site taken from the northeast. And then just another photograph of the site just taken again at that junction, looking onto that existing area of open space. Thank you, members.
Okay. Members, have we any comments on this one? Mr. Nicholson?
Yeah, look, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Roisin. And the only question is, and again, my colleague, Councillor Flaherty, would she maybe didn't ask, what accessible equipment is there within this layout? And the only other thing is, I'm assuming this is a local play park rather than a regional, you know, because obviously there would be a need, if people were coming to this in cars and see there's no car parking apart from, and obviously if they're parked up the side of the road, it could be a problem, but obviously I'm assuming it's a local. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, within the layout, there is an inclusive accessible swing. There is an accessible wheelchair roundabout specifically for the wheelchairs. There is an accessible double width slide, and there is sensory tube chimes, and there are sensory chunky knots and crosses. So there is accessible equipment within the play park. And look, yes, this is a local play park that will serve the local residential areas. It is an existing area of open space. So there is no requirement for additional car parking because there's no change of use of the land effectively. So we're satisfied that the existing on-street parking in the area can serve the play park.
Thanks, Roisin. Councillor Moodry.
Yes, thank you very much for that report, Roisin. I just wanted to ask, obviously there's quite a large, considerable pool of residents in that sort of immediate Mahon Road area. And I just wanted to ask, is there any sort of indication as to timescales for construction or completion? Because I'm aware that this follows on obviously from the play strategy that's being carried out at a number of other locations across council at the minute. Thank you.
Roisin.
Thank you, Chair. I was actually looking at the file. There's no indication of timescales as to when construction is going to start. Obviously, plan permission will last for 5 years, but I would anticipate that they will try and get this developed as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Any other comments or queries, members? We'll move to debate decision. Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Roisin for the report. Yes, this is council bringing forward another facility, one that's been much needed in the Mahon Road area. And as I've said before, it's coming on the back of a number of play areas which are much needed. And I know by talking to people in the past that that particular area of the Mahon this is something that has been greatly required and needed going forward. And no doubt, as my colleague Councillor Moody has said, we really look forward this would get going as quickly as possible with the council here to get it moving, and it would be well received and well aware. Thank you.
Mr. Nicholson.
Yeah, look, Chairman, again, straightforward. It's part of what the council play strategy is only in front of us because it is a council application. So look, you want to speed it, I'll propose it. So move it on.
Okay. Councillor Nicholson, Councillor Moodry.
Yes, thank you, Chair. As my colleague Alderman Anderson has alluded to, obviously there has been a long demand for the many residents in this area, and it's great to see this further extension of the play strategy in ABC Council, and I'm more than happy to second this proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Moodry. Any other queries? I don't see any or any other lights on, members, so we'll conclude that one and we'll move to our final application, Appendix 6, and Kyle again is going to deliver this one. Thank you.
This application seeks to discharge Condition 6 of Plan Approval LA 08 2021 1120 EF, which was for a public realm improvement scheme in Banbridge. Condition 6 states, no site works of any nature or development shall take place until a programme of archaeological work, POW, has been prepared by a qualified archaeologist, submitted by the applicant and approved in writing by the council in consultation with the Historic Environment Division, Department for Communities. The POW shall provide for identification and evaluation of archaeological remains within the site, mitigation of the impacts of development through licensed excavation recording or by preservation of remains in situ, post-excavation analysis sufficient to prepare an archaeological report to publication standard if necessary, and preparation of the digital documentary and material archive for deposition. This application is required to go before the planning committee as it's seeking to discharge a condition of a major plan application. Officers have taken it, members have read the report in full, and as such, this is a synopsis only. Condition 6 of plan approval, LA 08 2021 1120F, was suggested by the Historic Monuments section of the Historic Environment Division. The condition was deemed necessary to ensure that archaeological remains within the application site are properly identified and protected or appropriately recorded, thereby meeting the requirements of paragraph 6.11 of the SPPS and policy BH4 of PPS 6. In support of this planning application, a programme of archaeological work has been provided. As discussed in detail in the report, officers consider that the programme of archaeological work has sufficiently provided detail in relation to each element of Condition 6. Members are also advised that the Historic Environment Division were consulted regarding the programme of archaeological work and advised that they are content for Condition 6 to be discharged. So based on this recommendation from the Historic Environment Division, officers, having also considered the contents of the programme of archaeological work, are of the opinion that the obligations of Condition 6 have been met in this submission and therefore recommend that Condition 6 is discharged. We don't have a presentation for this item. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Members, any queries or questions to Kyle on this one? It's a fairly another straightforward one. Very kind to us tonight with application. Not going to labour this one, members. If you have any issues, raise them. If not, we'll skip through the decisions. Proposed, any seconder? Alderman Anderson was proposed by Councillor Nicholson, seconded by Alderman Anderson. Members, that's it. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your very long evening. You're very welcome. Can we stop the live feed too?